to our first panel, which has the title of Current Market Developments. This is what we want to discuss with our panelists this morning. So I'll be having 3 rounds of discussion with them with 3 topics, and then I'll be asking several questions, maybe given what the speakers will be sharing. But the 3 rounds would be around what are the market trends that we have seen during the last year. The second one would be around the future and where the market is going in payments, especially maybe with a focus on digitalization, as this is something, as Ulrich mentioned in his keynote, that is becoming more and more important, especially during the COVID time, where we have seen an acceleration of that trend. And last but not least, since we have also with us a lot of policymakers, I'll be asking the executives, what are the key asks? What is the wish list they want to share with policymakers? So without further ado, let's maybe start presenting who we have with us this morning. So I'll start first with Sonia Scott, who is the Vice President and General Manager of Global Commercial Services for Continental Europe at American Express. Thank you, Sonia, for being with us this morning. We're also glad to have with us this morning Udo Müller, who is the CEO of Paysafecard. Thank you, Udo, for being with us also for, I think, the 2nd or 3rd time. And then last but not least, I'm glad to have with us this morning Joan Burkovic, the CEO and co-founder at Bridge. So thanks again for all of you for being with us today. And I'll start with the first round of questions. And I'll first ask Sonia. Sonia, what have you seen from your company's perspective and the business that you do lead in Europe? How have you seen the recent market trends in the EU during the last year?
Yeah, thanks, Elie, for having me today. As you mentioned, I'm heading up the commercial card services at Amex, and that encompasses 15 markets across the EU. And the population of these markets is bigger than the population of the US, my employer's main market. What I experience on a daily basis is that we're still a long way away from the single market. And that's due to regulatory issues. That's particularly what we're facing, different transposition of AML regulation. And I have to say, I'm a true European at heart, and I would like us to take full advantage of the EU's main competitive angle, which is the single market. And I would ask policymakers to stop trying to the protectionism and be more forward-looking and solve consumer and clients' issues and enable true competition and encourage innovation. And just to give you an example of what I see what's happening at the moment is, of course, it's no surprise to anyone here that T&E has gone down, and we don't see at Amex a lot of not as much T&E as we used to see in 2019, but we see a big shift to goods and services. And we see a lot of new customers joining our network from the small business segment. And we want to support these customers. And that's difficult in certain instances because across my 15 markets, I can't go out with the same strategy because I have to adhere to different regulations. And you can imagine that in a company like Amex, I'm standing in line for tech resources. And so if I have to make the worst example, 15 different regulations in my 15 markets, I cannot get any backing and will not get the tech funding for this. So I really would like to see many, many regulations to be more harmonized.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And while passing to Udo, I'll ask, first, is harmonization also something that you're looking forward to? You want to see more of it? But also maybe you can tell us while answering this question about what you have seen in the market recently.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for being invited for this panel. Yeah, maybe just short intro. I'm CEO of Paysafecard, and Paysafecard we run since 20 years, 21 years. We run a distribution network of over 1 million point of sales across Europe, North America, Latin America, where we basically collect cash and digitize it and convert it into e-money or whatever, digitization. And mainly, so what have we seen over the last years, and what's the recent development? So obviously, if you hear now, we're focusing on cash, and in the news everywhere, it's cash is dead, and that's over. But what we have seen, basically the opposite is true. So there was a tremendous, in particular during COVID and based on COVID, a tremendous trend on digitization. And what we have seen, and when you look into this trend a little bit into more granularity and more deeper, you see basically two main trends. The one trend is those that are already digital. They probably increased their online spending, their digital spending behavior, because it's yeah, you're already there, and it's easy. And like me personally, well, going to the supermarket, paying with NFC, and then doing online payments is kind of increased. On the other side, digitalization is also not only those that are already digital, but it was really a boom now during COVID of the first time of those converting, of those becoming digital the first time. And this is mainly our customer segment that we are targeting, those that are paying with cash, that are not yet digital. It's a tremendous big market that can be targeted, and that was boosted by the COVID effect to also start becoming digital. And as I've mentioned, we are running a physical partnership with 1 million physical outlets like retailers, supermarkets, mini markets. And at the beginning of COVID, we were very afraid. Jesus, the business will fall apart. But yeah, the opposite was true. Our customers said they were so happy that they had access to cash in their daily frequented outlets, like a supermarket, like a retailer. They did not have to go to a bank branch because they were already closed, only for getting cash. So they combined the digitalization and payment behavior with the daily life, and Corona was really a big boom and boost for us for converting customers, digitizing customers for the first time, making them digital, and keeping them. So that was definitely a big trend. And the other trend, also the online challenger banks, kind of booming and increasing, and we have seen a big mixture basically coming from the one side, the classic online challenger banks that are kind of taking the market from the classic retail banks. We're also seeing the whole crypto market becoming online banks. So this is trends that we see, and positive trends and interesting trends that I'm curious about the development in the future. And coming back to your first question of harmonization, clearly that's a big important factor for being able to grow a business, for being able to really have a necessary size to be really relevant in the payment sector. Because a payment option, if you're only in one vertical, only in one country, it's nice, but I think as a payment you need scale, you need the mass market, and clearly harmonization would be important to be faster, to have more innovations, and to get more customers and make it more convenient for customers. And here harmonization going on, it's for me, it's not only regarding the payment itself. It's really more about the whole ecosystem that's connected to payment. If you speak to KYC and all those that are important factors and that should be harmonized and made easier, and that the entry barrier probably made easier to attract customers.
Thank you very much, Udo. We'll go later with some specific questions also on this idea, and maybe check with you like something like the electronic identification. How would that, you know, maybe change the business or improve it later on? But before doing so, Joan, I think now it's your turn. Can you tell us a bit more first about Bridge? What do you offer, you know, to your customers, and then tell us also a bit about what you have seen as in terms of market trends.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Joan Burkovic, CEO and co-founder at Bridge, and I'm glad to be with you today. And thank you very much for your invitation. So yes, first of all, I would like to say just a few words about Bridge. At Bridge, we provide digital payment solutions based on open banking wire transfers and account information services, which increase commission rates, especially for large amount payments, which reduce fraud and facilitate back office reconciliation between payment and bills, and also which reduce cost. We are connected to more than 8 million bank accounts on a daily basis, and we also provide account information solutions to allow to connect bank accounts seamless and securely in order, for example, to retrieve balances, categorize transactions, but also to retrieve information such as names, IBAN of the account owner. The use cases are, for example, to make KYC stronger, to improve onboarding process, and credit scoring tools more efficient, to facilitate accounting, and also to provide personal finance management solution. We have been around for 10 years now. We were the first player in Europe to be licensed as PSD2 payment institution. We are connected to European banks, obviously, and we have already initiated more than 1 billion euro transfers with Bridge Pay wire transfer based on open banking, as I said. And we have hundreds of clients, for example, e-merchant like Cdiscount, which is the second biggest e-merchant in France, payment players like Floabank or fintechs like Alma, invoicing players like Sage, management, corporate management, finance management such as Cegid, banks like Méliès Bank, crowdfunding players like YSeed, etc. But also one of the big trends is credit scoring industry, like we have Société Générale and La Banque Postale as clients. What I would say about trends, I think open banking were existing on the European market for more than 10 years now, mainly on, I would say, account information services for most markets. And then PSD2 arrived. And for the last 2 years, we were like stuck in the to build the infrastructure of PSD2 and to migrate all the connections, the previous connection, mainly based on direct access, to PSD2 APIs. And now the APIs are starting to working well. So there is a lot of new innovation coming based on open banking. And at Bridge, we believe that European payment sector is at the heart of major transformations today. And with a release of new solutions that will change our daily lives. And first of all, I would like to talk about wire transfer payments, also known as payment initiation, which I believe, and we believe at Bridge, will enter in our daily life very soon and become an essential means of payments. The open banking infrastructures introduced by PSD2 are now functional for most banks. And as a result, at Bridge, we are able to offer new digital payment experiences to companies, merchants, usable by everyone, and which provide amazing payment experience. And we feel a huge demand of the market and an increased adoption, especially for high amount payments. For example, I want to buy a sofa on an e-merchant. The card is not always a relevant payment method. Now, payment initiation, thanks to PSD2, just facilitate high amount payments, but also to facilitate payment collections, to replace traditional wire transfers and checks, and for B2B payment to simplify providers and salary payments. And what I would say that also that in parallel, the combination of payment initiation and account information services, now thanks to APIs, PSD2 APIs working properly, allow to provide a unique digital payment experience across the entire chain, from customer onboarding, like scoring KYC, to seamless digital payment, and also finally for customer engagement, thanks to account information services. Just to give you 2 examples of that, innovative use case, for example, for small credit providers to reinforce KYC, thanks to account information services, as they check names and IBANs from a trusted data source, thanks to instant secure connections. And then they improve their credit scoring with reliable and smart data retrieved instantly from banks. And finally, they increase credit reimbursement with a great digital pay by link experience based on open banking, which is sent at the right moment, for example, when the salary arrives on the accounts. It reduces fraud, it reduces over-indebtedness, and also it reduces default of payments. Another example, this use case can be also for new bank account opening. As a new client to open a new bank account, now I connect my previous bank account in the onboarding process to securely communicate my names and IBAN from a trusted data source. And then I top up and activate my new bank account with an instant wire transfer done in a few seconds. So as a result, to open and activate a new bank account, it just takes minutes instead of days, and it's fully secure and with a great user experience. That is some example of the innovation that is coming in the market thanks to PSD2 working well.
Thank you very much, Joan. That's very exciting, and it shows us, I think, all the potential that is still out there, for new incomers, for innovation, to take place in the area. I want to follow up with a question, to both you, Udo, and Joan, and that's related, to your experience with APIs as such. And we know there are several standards that are out there. Is that something you would like also to see harmonized, or you're happy with I would say the functioning as it is right now? We have mentioned harmonization anyway. I want specifically to ask about how do you see it from the API's perspective? I don't know, Udo, if you wanna go first.
Sure. So from the API perspective, so kind of open banking, clearly very good initiatives. What we currently see and feel, and Joan, you said all the banks have already implemented and live with those APIs. That's not kind of our experience we have. It's kind of not harmonized, or not really everyone providing these services on full speed and with good response times and so on. So it's a mixture. It's not yet there, but I'm very hopeful that this will be in the near future. Overall, it's I think on API, not only on payment. I think again, my favorite topic about KYC. It's I think yes, that's the right approach to really have standard APIs for user KYCs, for banking, for everything else, because banking and then customer experience, it's not only making the online payment, it's really a lot about the registration process. How easy do you make it, the ongoing communication with the customer? And when you look at the KYC options across Europe, in every country it's different. You always have to adapt to new standards, change a lot. Some that are legal in one country are not accepted in other countries. That makes it really complicated for a bank, for a payment company to operate across Europe and to get a critical mass. So answer to that, supportive and on the API approach, and if we can extend it and make it really reliable, that would be highly appreciable.
John, maybe I'll ask you the same question, but also in addition, I've seen a very similar question from the audience. So the question from the audience is, how many different APIs do you support with all your connected banks today? And is it enough, or is it a nightmare operationally? So maybe you could address both things at the same time.
Yeah. So as I said, we are an open banking players for more than 10 years now, and we were using direct access. So we were like connecting to the bank interface that the bank provide to their own clients to retrieve, to do the account information services and payment initiation services. For the last 2 years, we were working very hard, and we are still working very hard with all the banks we are connected to. We are connected to more than 250 banks across Europe today to improve their APIs. And as soon as they are working properly, we migrate our users or our payments initiation to those APIs. And I think one of the most biggest challenge is harmonization, because is country by country with different interpretations of the law from regulators, but also bank by bank, because some banks provide APIs providing some features. For example, there is a huge demand on the B2B market to use batch payment to simplify the provider's payment. With one payment initiation, I want to do 200 wire transfer. Some banks provide those functionalities, but some others are not providing those functionalities. So it's very hard to sell a product, a payment product, when some banks are available with this product and some others are not. So we are very working hard with banks to give them a view about the market needs, and also working with the regulators to also give the views of the market needs and the use cases, and how it is important to get an harmonization in the functionalities. And then there is also a challenge in the technical implementation, because each single API is different. So when you see an API from a big French bank, it's not at all the same from a Spanish API. So all our engineers are like relearning every time how to implement a bank API. So you multiply by the number of banks who are connected to. So it's a very huge amount of investment on our side to make it work properly. So I think one of the biggest challenge for the regulators and also for banks is to increase the harmonization in terms of functionalities, and also in terms of technicality, how we can implement the APIs. So to answer the second question, I think this is why there is very few PIS and AIS players in Europe with massive amount of connection use cases working properly, because it's very hard to make it work with all these challenges in harmonization and implementation. This is a very specific job, and we were very lucky to have built use cases and technology before PSD2, because now we have some clients. For example, we have clients. I am one of the co-founder and CEO at Banking, which is a B2C app, budget management, personal management tools with more than 5 million users, active users. So we have massive bank connection and usage, and now our challenge is to migrate to PSD2 APIs. That's working very well, but the use cases are already live. Now we see, thanks to APIs, I have said, new innovations. There is a lot of companies waiting for functional APIs to innovate and improve their process, to improve the quality of the service they provide to their clients, thanks to all the innovation we can provide with PSD2 APIs. And now we are at the end of this migration, at the end of this work, I would say, with the bank to make it happen, because the APIs are now mostly working well for the biggest bank. I won't say that for all the small banks in Europe. And there is another challenge, is also the experience of the strong customer authentication. And thanks to also the regulators that now pushing the bank to provide app-to-app, fluid app-to-app experience with the strong customer authentication, we see very, very amazing experience. But now also the same, some banks are providing an amazing experience, some others are not providing amazing experience, which is the biggest challenge also with strong customer authentication.
Thank you, Joan, for this. A quick follow-up question also from the audience, and please, the audience, keep asking your questions. I'll be taking them one after the other, or depending on which I would say topic we are addressing. So the next question is, would everyone benefit if there could be a unified API standard for all EU ASPSPs to provide services to TPPs? And let me maybe add to it a bit of my own sauce, saying, who would lose, or are there losers if there would be a unified API from your perspective? I don't know who wants to take that. Joan, since you were
yes.
about the topic,
I think
quickly in a minute.
I think it would be the dream to get one single API for all the banks, providing all the use cases, all the functionalities, and I think it would be like the winners would be the European citizen and European companies, as the potential of innovation would be enormous across Europe. And I really believe that this all open banking subject increase the economic performance of Europe, and it would be my big dream. But also the losers would be the company like us, Bridge, because we manage this complexity. If it is very easy to connect all the banks, you would be much more competition in the market. But I would say it's good for European citizens. It would be a challenge for open banking players.
That's very well said, and I think regulators and policymakers that are with us could hear that very well. So I'm sure they are taking notes. Before maybe moving to our next round of questions, I want Sonia to follow up on something you mentioned. In the 15 countries that you serve, SMEs are one of the most important, if not the most important, client, the customer that is out there. So during the last year, when they were coming to you and asking, you to help them, what were the main asks? What they were asking for? What do they really need in order to perform, their jobs and services?
Well, in the beginning of the crisis, it was, of course, in the hygiene factors, being a reliable partner, ensuring liquidity, making fast credit decisions, and we had a special program in place where we allowed companies to pay later. But throughout the crisis, it became even more apparent, and back to Udo's favorite topics with KYC, I think there are two use cases really that would really help us if we innovated more in open banking. First one, as mentioned, is KYC. It's very cumbersome if you're an SME to onboard digitally at any bank. It's not Amex specific. You have to provide a lot of data. You have to upload it. And my home country is Germany, and I'm also responsible for the Nordics. So there's a big discrepancy what is possible. So in the Nordics, through an API, you can just upload all the information which is publicly available. So that it's an ease of use for the customer, versus here in Germany, you have to provide or collect all the information and upload it yourself. So that would be my first use case, which is a big need from the client side. The second is the data flow. So ideally, if you're a company, you would like to have a lot of data that gets automatically fed into your management systems, your SAP, for example. With a credit card issue, we only know that the company has paid a certain amount. We don't know what they paid it for, and particularly we don't see the percentage of the VAT. So ideally, we would use third parties via an API to get this data upload and get it fed into the management systems of our clients. So that's two big asks. Both are ease of usage, and both could be solved easily with APIs.
Again, I'm sure, yeah, the policymakers are noting this. And here comes, the first hard question of this morning. And no surprise, it has been asked by a journalist. So this is Jack Schickler from MLEX, who is asking you. Fabio Panetta from the ECB has said a digital euro could tackle the dominance of major card schemes, Visa, MasterCard. How is that consistent with saying it won't change the competitive dynamics of the private sector? I know it's a hard one. I don't know who would like to tackle that. I think the answer is already in the question itself. Someone would like to give it a go? That's more on, CBDCs and the role of a digital euro. Who wants to go first? Sonia?
I would need to hear the question again. I'm trying to see it in the chat, but I can't.
Sure. So it's I don't know if you can see the Q&A. It's tapped in the answer, but I don't think we have answered. That's why I'm raising it again. So Fabio Panetta from the ECB said a digital euro could tackle the dominance of major card schemes, Visa and MasterCard. This is from his speech. He said, how is that consistent with saying that this meaning the digital euro won't change the competitive dynamics of the private sector? So Jack is saying this, digital euro will change the competitive dynamics of the private sector. Would you agree with that? That's probably more like, again, if you have any views on the digital euro as such, if you believe, this is something that would be positive or not for the market. You could also say it's too early.
I would say at the moment it's not top of the mind of any of our clients, and I think if I would need to tackle things, that wouldn't be my first priority to go for the digital euro. I think there's lots of basic pieces across Europe that need to be solved before we jump onto that. And if it's Visa, MasterCard or Amex, we've all been around for a long time, we've all adopted. And if payment systems change, I'm sure we will adopt again. We have done through the past, we've become more digital. If you look at all the contactless payment, the question is, do we even need plastic cards in the future? We can adopt. And so I don't see it as a big threat. And of course, I think it's always, if it adds to competition, brilliant. We need more competition, and that's something we should all embrace.
Udo, do you see some use cases of a future digital euro?
Well, maybe answer it a little bit broader, not only digital euro. So for sure, it will influence the payment behavior. Everything will influence basically the payment behavior. The whole crypto area, I hope that there will be more use cases other than just speculating and with bitcoins and others, but that there are really good use cases like NFTs and others that change a payment behavior that are driving innovation. For me, I think it's clear that crypto, digital euro, that crypto basically is something every company, every regulator, everyone has to get familiar with, has to have projects, have to look into it to develop innovations. And then the more innovations we have, and I don't know yet what the outcome will be with the digital euro and in which direction, but it's clear going into basically harmonization, that looking forward, and what's the exact outcome? I don't know if it will completely change the existing parties involved. I doubt that, because as Sonja said, Mastercard, Visa, Amex, they are adopting, they are taking the change as a chance and developing new things. So I am I'm pushing to be very close to digital euro, to all those initiatives, and open-minded, and see what advantages it can bring to our customers and to us.
Okay, thank you, Udo. John, I'll spare you, to answer this question, but I'll ask you another difficult one that was raised also by the audience. Who should help harmonize, the API standard, the harmonized API standard? So who do you think should tackle this? Is it probably the private sector or the public sector? How do you see it? Or what is your preference there?
Very hard question. I would love to see the bank sectors drive by the need of the markets, but as it is a regulated sector, it's not the case. What I see is this sector is moving because or thanks to new regulation that is trying to fit the market needs and to fit the market challenges. And that is what we have seen for PSD2. There is a huge market needs, and it was very hard to implement PSD2 because I think one of the biggest challenge is what are the interests of the banks in this new movement or innovations. And I think one of the biggest challenge is to find relevant business model for banks. And I would say that the regulators and the European institution should keep the drive of this movement, but also to integrate the business model of the banks or the stakeholders at the heart of this movement. Because if there is no interest for stakeholders, business interest for stakeholders to implement those innovations, it won't be the priority, or it will be the last budget investment done at the end of the year. So I need that one of the biggest challenges for regulators is to find a business model for the banks, to make all the stakeholders around the tables, and to create in a way new arrangement, a new organization around this new payments method. And for the first question, I don't know if the digital euro will foster sovereignty of European payments. But as I see, the biggest challenge is harmonization, is to move easily the money from one account to another. It's harmonization, it's instant payment, it's the business model. And I think one of the key possibility here is PSD2 with a payment initiation. It's what we are doing. It's to connecting the bank, make it easily secure, moving money from one bank to another. So with instant payment, with fluid, strong customer authentication, harmonization, business model built with the banks, I think this is the key aspect to increase the sovereignty of Europe, I would say.
Good. Thank you, John. I think with this, it's time to move to our second round of discussion. And this is talking more about the future. And the future here meaning, what do you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years? You've all, in your introduction and in the first round, you mentioned digitalization, the quick move and the acceleration of digitalization from different angles. Yeah, Udo, you mentioned the move from cash to re-digitize customers. John, how you can connect again and provide solutions to customers via some with the connection with the banks. Sonja, SMEs more in the business sector and so on for corporations. But how do you see the future with this increase in digitalization? And I want you also maybe to mention how the different, I would say, initiatives, or how the ECB, for instance, and the future as as was summarized by Ulrich in his keynote speech, do you see, these two going in the same direction or not? So future, and then the market trends in the future that you think would be the winning business model of the future. Udo first.
Sure. Thanks. Good question. Yeah. Basically, the future. There are a lot of factors currently. I think that needs to be taken into consideration. On the one hand, it's the decline of the traditional banks and bank branches closure, ATM closures. The other sectors, the whole crypto area targeting the banking sector. And the third driver of banking in the future is basically those top tech global companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, and so on. I think those three factors will be dominant or will be responsible for kind of driving the future of payment. For me, it's kind of the most important, the one that wins or as advantages are always those that own the customer, and we see those who have the customer, they can give them additional products, additional features, and here I see really from Facebook, Amazon, and so on, that they will go much stronger into the payment area, because they have really the direct customer access. Those customers do everything, whatever Google, Apple, Amazon offers, kind of, and they're very, very, very loyal. On the other side, the same with the crypto exchanges and companies that are really kind of merging into this area. Overall, I don't think that there will be one winner or that's a one clear direction payments is moving into. It's all about easiness for the customer to get him signed on to the bank, to the product, to make it easy for them to offer them services they really need. And yeah, big topic for us where we see important areas is all about the inclusion factor. So really giving access to people who are not overbanked, who have not whatever 3 bank cards and then 10 credit cards and so on, but to give them opportunities to be part of the banking community. So not a clear answer, but I see there are the very interesting dynamics in the markets that each of them will influence the future of payments.
Thanks, Udo. Joan, the same question.
I would say that the trend in the future for me is the secure interconnection between all the services used by the European citizen or European companies. I see that already on all the chain. If you imagine, and fully digital, you imagine digital identity. So every time I want to be sure this is the right person in front of me, I can use a secure digital identity with a full online seamless process. And then when I want to use an accounting software, I can very easily connect with the banks, connect with all the services to facilitate the payment of providers, the salary payments, all the B2B aspects. A lot of interconnection between all the services used by a company would be connected, securely connected, and will exchange information to give a full global client experience, and that increase the efficiency of how to manage a business. It's the same for the individuals. every time I want to interact with my bank account, I want to have a new credit to finance my car, for example. I connect securely my banks. The credit scoring is way better and more efficient. We can erase over indebtedness thanks to digital information, secure digital information. Thanks now to technology, we can instantly understand the financial situation of a citizen, and to say yes or no, you will have the credit because you are able to reimburse it. It's all secure interaction and understanding about what the data is saying. And so for me, it's interconnection between client services, secure interconnection, and the banks can be at the heart of this movement, because all our society is created around money, and we have to interact around money all the time. And so the bank can provide, can be at the heart of this interaction, global interaction. But the challenge is that there is a lot of banks on the market. It's difficult to make them move at the same in the same direction, the same tempo. So I think one of the biggest challenge here is not to let the place from the big digital players that can also play this center role, like Facebook, Amazon, etc., because they also have millions of clients with all the digital environments built already.
Thank you, Joan. And last but not least, Sonia, your perspective on the future.
I think we've all seen that through the crisis that digitalization has really increased dramatically, and I think it's important to continue to drive innovation in payments and have better conditions for our customers and clients. And I think it's important to lower the barriers to have domestic companies enter our market with products that are useful for our customer base. And if I take the CCD, I think that was established in 2008, and there is a revision now launched by the European Commission, has been launched in summer, which is overdue. And I think the original objective for the CCD was to create a single market for credit. And from my perspective, that hasn't been the case. So that's why I really embrace the revision. And I think what needs to be done is remove the current barriers, because if I look at, in my case, in France, I cannot access credit bureaus because we are a financial institution, not a bank. And I can't give credit across, for that reason, credit across countries. And that's something I think that to enhance competition, that's something that ought to be looked at. And so we have a lot of potential within our market to still grow if competition was allowed more across the borders.
Thank you, Sonia. Before moving to the third round, and time is really going very quickly here, and that's thanks, I think, to the great discussion we're having. There is one question from the audience, which is, what is the panel's view on EPI, the European Payments Initiative? So I'll be asking also if you could address this very, very quickly. Again, the three of you. I don't know, Joan first, if you want to tell us your views on EPI.
I think EPI main objective is to create this business model around open banking payments. I think it can be a great initiative if and only if it's open to all the payment institution stakeholders, not only banks. We need to have in mind the market needs. We need to have the innovators playing a role here, and to create this new arrangement, how to create this business model around new payment system.
Udo?
All right. Yeah, similar to Joan, everything highly appreciated that supports innovation, that supports new products innovation is a perfect approach.
Last but not least, Sonia, for the card scheme, that's maybe a hard one, but
yeah, thanks, John, for you saying it should be open to to many players. Well, whatever the market accepts, I mean, it's good if it's good for competition, so be it. And if the consumers and merchants think it's needed and accepted, then it's good for the market. My personal view is I think it's another example of protectionism. It's solving for something that's already there. And I would encourage and hope that as a geographic region, we can also be forward-looking and solve for things that are not there yet.
perfect. Okay, so I guess the panel here view is not, well, the panelists have some doubts. let's put it this way. This is something shared, so hopefully this could be, if it is there, could be more open. But that's something that we are discussing. EPI, you know, as I mentioned, I think in my intro, we have a fireside chat with Martina Wemert, so maybe she can tell us a bit more whether PIs could be allowed later on, or how, you know, again, we can see it as a solution for the future, as I think Sonia and Joan and Udo, you all addressed this. So we're coming.
Some panel members have been around when Monet was started.
Right. Okay. So we're quickly moving to the end of our panel, and now I would like, you know, to give you the floor, each one of you, for 2-3 minutes to start really, you know, sharing with the audience your concluding remarks. And here I would like you, while doing so, to tell us a bit, what is your wish list? What are, you know, the main things you would like policymakers to address or tackle that, from your perspective, will be beneficial for European businesses and for European consumers? So we'll start now with Joan.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I would like to thank all the European institutions to make it happen, to working very hard with all the stakeholders to increase this, to foster innovation and to increase this sovereignty of European payments. And we are working very closely with them for years, and I would like to thank you them. And my wish list would be how can we increase and make it faster, this harmonization of APIs on the market? How can we make the law respected more faster, because it's very hard, for example, to PSD2 to make all the banks respected the law. I would, one of the key aspects for me also is digital ID. How can we increase the implementation of digital identification across Europe, as it will just solve a major burden and ineffective KYC process. So that's for me my wish list.
Thank you, John. Udo.
Yeah, it's all about digitalization. That's clear, and as I think I said, there are two streams. The one is those are already digital to grow this, but really the ask is here also to the policymaker to also look at those that basically start becoming digital, whether it's the underbanked, whether it's the young population, whether it's payment solutions that are not the big traditional ones. So with all regulations, basically have in mind that there are products that are not that traditional, I would say, and that they understand what the need is for them, and with policies not try to kill or make it more difficult for them, and to be innovative and maybe a risk-based approach for solutions that really increase the digitalization of the non-banked, underbanked population. That's kind of my wish.
Thank you, Udo. And last, Sonia, what would you like, our policymakers in the EU to do?
My wish list. Well, first of all, I would say, I would like to say, forward-looking regulation is something I really appreciate to enable sustainable growth in our single market. And there are three points I would like to make. One is facilitating the dialogue. If we look at SCA, I don't expect policymakers to know all the ins and outs of our technical solutions across the financial industry. So it's like this forum to come together and understand what the needs are and how we can both support. So if the regulator wants to protect consumer rights, we can come to the table and say, this is how we can support this. Secondly, I would ask for flexible rules and rules that are technologically neutral. Again, if you look at SCA, rather than mandating one authentication solution, it would be great to say, these are the levels of fraud I expect as a regulator, please provide for that. And thirdly, it would be principle-based regulation. The PSD2 runs, if I'm not correct, to nearly 100 pages. I think that's complicated and creates a barrier of entry again. And it would be, I would appreciate if we have principles clearly laid out that financial institution, banks, new entries can adhere to. And I think for the EU, the payments in the EU are at a critical turning point, and we are now in the driver's seat, all of us, not only my side of the table, but also the regulators and all the players to really give the EU a boost and become the single market that we should be.
Thank you very much to you, Sonia, Joan, and Udo. I think this panel showed very good, to the audience how payment institutions are innovating with different business models that we had, today in the panel. How many services and products are put out there, and how we are able, to bring competition to the market and then to satisfy, the consumer needs. And there is more, to come in the next few years. I hope that your wishes will be heard at least partially by the policymakers that are listening to us today. I thank you a lot, again for making the time to speak to our audience. I mean, the peaks we have now for 164 attendees, and I've seen it was a bit even higher. So a lot of stakeholders and important decision makers are really with us today, listening to you and what you had to share. Thanks again for being there, and please stay tuned and stay with us for the rest of the conference.